We do have one housekeeping item before we open the public hearing. Our counsel tonight, Robert McLaughlin, has left his firm, Hudson Russ, at our December 3rd meeting. Under our housekeeping document, we appointed Hudson Russ, and specifically Robert McLaughlin, to be our counsel. So that means the board needs to make a decision on how we want to proceed. I would suggest the board consider appointing Robert McLaughlin under his current firm, PC. Is that the appropriate way to describe it?
Correct.
For the moment, and I would ask for any discussion or comments from the board.
Is it a one-year appointment?
It's a, I would describe it as a not more than 1 year, and what would be appropriate to say here, Bob, as far as your intentions?
I expect to be at a new firm that's very similar to my old firm within a few weeks.
So we make the appointment an indefinite period of time? Just
No.
the appointment?
The appointment would be for a year,
Okay.
and then I expect, when I finalize my arrangements, we'll come back and ask that the new firm be considered for the appointment.
Bob carries our institutional knowledge, as all of you on the board know, at least for the terms of your service. He's done a very fine job assisting myself and the board in carrying on the Montgomery IDA activities. I've confirmed with Bob that he's willing and able and has the time to continue serving us as counsel. I need a motion. Motion by Matt, second by Steve. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Look forward to continuing work with you, Bob. Moving on to the public hearing document. The intention of this meeting tonight is to hold a public hearing, and I have a number of details to go over. It would be by this agency, the Town of Montgomery IDA. Project beneficiary is USEF Sailfish LLC, after which I'll consider the company. And the location is here in the Town of Montgomery. And the hearing was scheduled and noticed for tonight at 5:30. I'm Jeff Christ, the chairman of the Town of Montgomery IDA board, in connection with the project and the subject of this public hearing. I might take this moment to introduce our board so everybody is acquainted with them. Starting on my right, John Dixon, Ed Williams, to my left, Robert Santo, Steve Rinaldi, and lastly but not least, Matt Stoddard on my far left. Thank you for being here, board. Today I am holding this public hearing to allow citizens to make a statement for the record related to the involvement of the agency with the project, hereafter known as the proposed project, for the benefit of USEF Sailfish LLC, the company. The proposed project consists of the following. A, 1, the acquisition of an interest in approximately 187-acre parcel of land located at New York State Route 17K and 747, also known as 635 International Drive, in the Town of Montgomery, Orange County, New York. The construction on the land of an approximately 1,010,880 square foot facility with related site work and exterior improvements, and the acquisition and installation therein and thereon of related fixtures, machinery, equipment, or other personal property, collectively the equipment. All of the foregoing to constitute a warehouse distribution facility, which will collectively be known as a project facility. B, the assignment and granting of certain financial assistance within the meaning of section 854-14 of the Act with respect to the foregoing, including potential exemptions from certain sales and use taxes, real property taxes, real estate transfer taxes, and mortgage recording taxes, collectively known as the financial assistance, all as approved by the agency for the benefit of Blue Water 1 LLC on November 12th, 2019. And finally, C, the lease or sale of the project facility to the company or such other persons or entities as may be designated by the company and agreed upon by the agency. I have more to go, unfortunately. I think there are a couple more seats if you want to squeeze in anywhere, people who are standing. Is Brian here? Could we move a couple seats if we need to? Brian, thank you. As to close, at the special meeting of the agency held on December 3rd, 2019, the company's predecessor, Blue Water 1 LLC, assigned the application submitted to the agency in January 2019 to the company. The company and the company's representatives discussed the assigned application at that time. After such disclosure, the agency scheduled this public hearing pursuant to the Act. The agency is considering whether A, to undertake the project as assigned to the company, B, whether to provide to the company certain exemptions from taxation with respect to the project as determined by the agency on behalf of the company's predecessor, Blue Water 1, for the project and project facility on November 12, 2019, including 1, exemption from mortgage recording taxes with respect to any documents, if any, recorded by the agency with respect to the project in the office of the County Clerk of Orange County, New York, or elsewhere. Exemption from, this is number 2, exemption from deed transfer taxes on any real estate transfers, if any, with respect to the project. 3, exemption from sales taxes related to the acquisition, construction, renovation, and installation of the project facility. And 4, in the event that the project facility would be subject to real property taxation if owned by the company, but shall be deemed exempt from real property taxation due to the involvement of the agency therein, exempt from real property taxes, if any, with respect to the project facility, subject to the obligation of the company to make payments in lieu of taxes with respect to the project facility. If any portion of the financial assistance to be granted by the agency with respect to the project is not consistent with the agency's uniform tax exemption policy, the agent will follow the procedures for deviation from such policy set forth in section 874-4 of the Act prior to granting such proportion of the financial assistance. Doing okay? I intend to provide general information on the agency's general authority and public purpose to provide assistance to this project that's proposed. I will then open the public comment to receive comments from all present who wish to comment on either the proposed project or the financial assistance contemplated by the agency with respect to the proposed project. The legal authorization and powers of the agencies of this agency are provided by the provisions of Chapter 1030 of Laws of 1969 of New York. And those laws authorize the agency to promote, develop, encourage, and assist in acquiring, constructing, reconstructing, improving, maintaining, and equipping and furnishing of manufacturing, warehousing, research, commercial, and industrial facilities, among others. I'm getting there. Thank you for your patience. Purpose of this public hearing pursuant to section 859A2 of General Municipal Law of New York prior to the agency providing any financial assistance of more than $100,000 to any project, the agency, among other things, must hold a public hearing pursuant to Section 859A of the Act. And this proposed project may exceed $100,000. I better not skip too much here. Since a proposed financial assistance to be provided by the agency with respect to the proposed project may exceed $100,000, then prior to providing any financial assistance of more than $100,000, the agency must hold a public hearing on the nature and location of the proposed project and the proposed financial assistance to be provided by the agency with respect to the proposed project. After consideration of the application received from the company, the members of the agency adopted a resolution on December 3rd, 2019, the public hearing resolution authorizing the chair of the agency, myself, to conduct this public hearing with respect to the proposed project pursuant to the Section 859 Act. The chairperson of the agency has caused notice of this public hearing to be A, mailed on December 13th, 2019, and on December 16th, 2019, to the chief executive officers of Orange County, the town of Montgomery, the Valley Central School District, and B, published on December 18th, 2019, in the Wantagh Valley Times, a newspaper of general circulation available to the residents of the town of Montgomery, Orange County, New York. In addition, the chairperson caused notice of this public hearing to be posted on December 19th, 2019, on the agency's website and also on a public bulletin board located here in this building at 110 Bracken Road. Copies of this notice of public hearing are available on the table up front. And unless there's any objection, I am going to suggest waiving the full reading of the notice of this public hearing and instead request that the full text of the notice of this public hearing be inserted into the record of this public hearing. Does anyone object to the waiving of the public hearing notice? Seeing none, I will dispense with reading that. The comments received today at this public hearing will be presented to the members of the agency at or prior to the meeting at which the members of the agency will consider whether to approve the undertaking of the proposed project by the agency and the granting by the agency of any financial assistance in excess of $100,000 with respect to the proposed project. Concerning written comments, the notice of this public hearing indicated that written comments could be addressed to myself, chairperson of the agency. And so far, we know of written comments have been received prior to tonight, have included an email from Beverly Mertz, email from Nina Schneider, email from Seal Van Zandt, email from Ursula Lettner, letter from the Valley Central School District, and email from Virginia Osterhout. These written comments will be attached to the transcript of this public hearing. Before I open the public hearing to public comment, I would like to introduce Don Chase of the company, who will describe the project in further detail, as well as identifying the intended tenant for the project and project facility. Don, welcome.
Good evening, Chairman.
Step on the pedestal and lift it up.
Yeah, I think it's on.
Good evening, Chairman Chris, members of the board. My name is Don Chase, partner with Blue Water Property Group. As you know, we are the developer for Project Sailfish and applied to this board back in December of 2018 for financial assistance relative to the project, which, as Chairman Chris just said, was ultimately granted this past November 2019. We are here today to discuss the assignment of that financial incentive package to USEF Sailfish LLC, a subsidiary of USAA Real Estate. which will own the property going forward. The assignment was highlighted in our original application, and the material economic aspects of the project are unchanged. We will continue as Blue Water to be involved in this project through the development. As a brief update since our last discussion, we have fully completed our permitting process on a state, local, and national level, including site plan approval granted by the planning board in the town of Montgomery, and are prepared to begin development of the project. At the request of the chairman, I have with me today representatives from our partner USA Real Estate, as well as from the project occupant and long-term tenant Amazon.com. Although Blue Water has been the face of Project Sailfish on a local level, we have been working with USA and Amazon since July of 2018. Paul Segreto is manager of industrial asset management for USA Real Estate, and Brad Griggs is senior manager of economic development at Amazon. Each are prepared to make a remark or two to the board this evening. Paul?
Good evening. Paul Segreto, Managing Director, Industrial Asset Management at USA Real Estate. USAA is an insurance company. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of that insurance company. We invest in real estate to keep insurance premiums low for military members and their family. We will be the owner of this project. We'll be here for a long time. It's important for us to be here for the assignment of the incentive package, which is customary in a development of this nature. We've completed upwards of 40 transactions with Amazon across the country, and we have a strong relationship with them as well as Blue Water.
Thank you, Paul.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, my name board. Thank you for having me this evening. My name is Brad Griggs. I'm a senior manager on the economic development team with Amazon. We are the prospective tenant for this facility, pending the completion of our ongoing due diligence, as well as completion of lease negotiations with USAA. If this facility does move forward with us as the prospective tenant, it would be a fulfillment center in our national or global network. It would be a non-sortable facility, meaning that it would contain products of a larger nature, patio furniture, appliances, things like that. We are prospectively going to employ 800 full-time employees at the site as per the application. Those employees will all have a minimum of $15 an hour and comprehensive benefits. Thank you very much for your time this evening, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Brad. I will now open this public hearing for public comment, and I'm supposed to document the time, 5:49. Bob has me well trained. By way of operating rules, if you wish to make a public comment, please raise your hand and I will call on you. Please wait to be recognized. Once recognized, please stand and state your name and address for the record. Please keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, so all those present today may have a chance to comment for the record if they so choose. If your comments mirror those of someone who has already spoken, you may so indicate and then relinquish the podium to another speaker so that all views represented at this hearing may be heard. When everyone has had the opportunity to speak, I will conclude this public hearing. A record of this public hearing will be prepared and reviewed by the members of the agency in connection with the agency's consideration of the proposed project. Again, the purpose of this public hearing is to solicit public comment. We are not here to answer questions. However, we will, in the course of this public hearing, consider questions if we have the information to answer the questions and there is sufficient time to consider such questions. I will now ask if there is anyone in attendance who wishes to comment on either the nature and location of the proposed project or the proposed financial assistance being contemplated by the agency with respect to the proposed project. For the record, please state your name and indicate your comments on either the proposed project or the proposed financial assistance being contemplated by the agency with respect to the proposed project. Brian, would you like to start?
Absolutely.
Good evening, everybody. It's my first meeting as town supervisor in front of you, the Industrial Development Agency. The first thing I want to say is thank you for your service to the town. It is really appreciated. My comments are based on a discussion that we had at my reorganization meeting, which took place last Thursday. And we had a discussion as a board on a number of topics. Obviously, I think we all know and have seen how advertised it's been that the town is in need of an updated comprehensive plan. That was a big part of our discussion. Also part of our discussion was your public hearing this evening. And it was felt by a majority of the board that we wanted to make some statements regarding what you will be talking about this evening. So I'm going to read this letter and then I'm going to have some more comments afterwards. I read on behalf of the Montgomery Town Board. As you're aware, a newly constituted town board was seated as of January 1st, 2020. We are aware that the first public hearing with respect to the above referenced application submitted by USEF Sailfish LLC is being held before the Town Industrial Development Agency on this date. The application relates to the approximately 1 million square foot warehouse to be considered on New York State Route 17K. Set forth in the application and the notice of public hearing dated December 13, 2019, the town board is also aware that this application seeks assignment of the approvals and benefits previously granted by the agency from Blue Water to Sailfish. The purpose of this letter is to raise certain points for consideration by the agency prior to any vote on the current assignment application. It is the opinion of the town board that the agency should reconsider its participation in the project and whether Sailfish should be granted any financial assistance or incentives by the agency. In the first instance, it is now essentially common knowledge that the contemplated project being assigned to Sailfish is an Amazon company warehouse and distribution facility. The assigned financial benefits sought by Sailfish include, but are not limited to, exemptions from certain sales and use taxes, real property taxes, real estate transfer taxes, and mortgage recording taxes. Page 4 of the application states that the estimated value of the total requested financial assistance is in excess of $25 million. According to a recent Bloomberg report, Amazon's approximate market value is near or exceeds $1 trillion. The financial assistance at issue here, therefore, represents approximately 0.0025% of the company's value. Conversely, the real property tax exemptions, if granted, total $21,500,000. Obviously, these exemptions would have massive and detrimental long-term financial consequences to the local taxing authorities. Secondly, the agency is reminded that Medline Industries, a nationwide manufacturer and distributor of medical equipment and supplies, recently withdrew the application for the same types of financial assistance it previously submitted to the agency and is nevertheless proceeding with its development project. Although Medline is an extremely large and profitable company, Sailfish Amazon is exponentially larger and certainly will not suffer any consequences to its existence and operations should there be an instant application be denied. Finally, the agency is respectfully advised that Sailfish is in the process of applying for building permits with the town's building department. The town board believes that the company is moving forward with its plans to commence construction by virtue of the approvals already granted by the town.
I'm sorry, can you slow down a little bit?
I will submit this as well, for the record. In the opinion of the town board, the primary purpose of granting benefits by an industrial development agency is to attract new businesses to an area when it is critical that financial assistance is the only way to facilitate a project. Due to the inherent geographical benefits of the town of Montgomery, as well as the substantial financial strength of the applicant, Sailfish, like Medline, should proceed with the project without agency involvement. Accordingly, it is simply unnecessary for the instant application to be granted. For the foregoing reasons and others which will undoubtedly be placed in the record before you by other stakeholders within the town at this public hearing, the town board respectfully urges the agency to take the following actions. Keep this evening's public hearing open for multiple sessions to afford those who cannot appear this evening an opportunity to be heard on the issue of great importance. Upon due deliberation, determine that the application for assignment of the approvals previously granted by the agency on November 12, 2019 should be denied. And upon further deliberation, determine that the November 12, 2019 agency approvals should be withdrawn. Thank you for your consideration. And I just want to add one other note. There was a notice by Kristen Brown, our councilwoman on one of our boards, on our town board, that there was a difference in language as opposed to the seeker financial statement. And I'm going to submit this to you, Chairman. It actually speaks to the sewer treatment plant, and that the language specifically states that it would be developed and deeded to the town at our request, but the actual language is different, and I'm going to show this to you and submit it for the record. Hopefully we can take a look at that language and make a tweak. And from a procedural standpoint, this is the last thing that I want to be doing
Because we just took office and the board felt strongly, we felt it was important to air this concern. But in a perfect world and in the world that we're going to create here in the town of Montgomery, we're going to have a comprehensive plan that's updated. We're going to have all the rules set forth, and we're going to make sure that our zoning is the way it's supposed to be, and the way that we want it to be as a community, with a conversation that's going to include a ton of public participation, so that we don't have this issue, so that we are one team moving forward together. The last thing that I want to do is be up here and be in a situation, 2 years of work being done by both the applicant and all of you up here, and then have a statement like this made from a town board. That's certainly not something that I want to see happen in the future. So hopefully, working together, this is the last time something like this happens. I hope that you take into consideration the comments today, and I will submit them to you, Mr. Chairman, for the record.
Thank you, Brian. Mike.
Thank you, Chairman Chris. Thank you, Board, IDA Board. My name is Mike Anagnostakis, A-N-A-G-N-O-S-T-A-K-I-S. I am Orange County legislator representing the towns of Newburgh and the towns of Montgomery. I am the legislator representing this district where this project is moving forward. And I want to make it very clear, I am here tonight speaking on behalf of myself as an Orange County legislator representing this district, no one else. Except that I am also speaking, I think, on behalf of the taxpayers of the town of Montgomery. So I think, believe it or not, most all of us will be in agreement on just about everything. We want the project to move forward. We think it's a good location for such a project. It probably is going to give us a lot of jobs. It'll give us construction jobs. It'll enhance the economy going forward. It's everything we want. The company will actually get many benefits. It will get mortgage deductions and sales tax exemptions and 485B exemptions, which they could automatically apply for, so they will get tax relief also. Where we disagree is on that final step. Do we move forward with that final tax dollar, which is the IDA grant of a pilot, for this particular company, or any particular company? Now, you're in a very tough position because you have people telling you a lot of different things. I've heard people tell you it's an automatic coupon. Everyone gets it. Well, if you owned a restaurant, I ask you, would you stand at that door and hand a 50% off coupon to every single person that walked in there? I bet you wouldn't do that. I bet you would take each case individually and study it individually. Let me give you two examples before I go on to this particular case. A few years ago, in the town of Newburgh, there was an auto dealership that wanted to move forward with building another huge showroom. A lot of construction jobs, a lot of future sales jobs, a lot of impact for the town. And the same people that'll pitch to you that they ought to get a pilot, that every company ought to get a pilot, pitch that that company should get a pilot. Well, the politicians, the elected officials in the town of Newburgh stood up and they backed down, they didn't get that pilot. Well, that dealership was a four-generation dealership that had been there on the same spot forever, making plenty of profits. And that new showroom was a mandate by corporate headquarters that said you must break the two brands into two different showrooms. They were going to do it. They weren't going to go anywhere, but they wanted the taxpayers to foot the bill of that new construction. Well, they were turned down because of the pressure. This year, you have an example that you know a lot better, the Medline situation. Here's a company, and again, it's always preached, if you don't give them these breaks, they're going to leave. They won't build. They'll go somewhere else. Dealership, Medline. Medline was in Hamptonburg the year before they came to you. They said, if we don't get the breaks, if we don't get the zoning approvals, we're leaving the state. Well, they didn't get the zoning approvals. What did they do? They turned around and bought a property in Montgomery. Then they came to you and said, give us the pilots, otherwise we're going to leave the state. Well, for whatever reason, the pilot wasn't granted. They weren't going anywhere. They had bought that property. They built the property. And the differential on that pilot that you didn't give them was an extra $1 million a year for the taxpayers of the town of Montgomery and the school district. Let me put in proportion what $1 million a year means. The town of Montgomery budget that they just voted on is a $10 million budget. That $1 million means a lot to the taxpayers. Now we have this situation. You don't give it to them, they won't come here, they won't build. Well, first of all, I don't think you should be giving it to them, because when I read the original documents under the projected profit, I couldn't find where the company was listed. It actually said, please provide the projected profits. It says, applicant views this information as proprietary for its confidential applicant. I ask you, please, show of hands, how many of you knew it was Amazon? I only saw 1 or 2 hands go up. That means the other ones didn't know it was Amazon. I say that you decline it on that basis alone if you don't know who it is. Now we know it's Amazon. Okay, well, what do we know about Amazon if we study the case individually? We know that Amazon, as was mentioned, is a huge company. Does anyone know what the highest market valued company in the world is? It's not Amazon. Apple's the highest. Amazon is right behind them at just under $1 trillion. Anyone know who the richest man in the world is? That's right, here it's Jeff Bezos at $113 million. Billion, I'm sorry, billion, correct. So, the company isn't going anywhere. Their goal is, right now, 24 hours fulfillment. But they've stated that their ultimate goal is same-day fulfillment. And if you read their literature, they need to be at locations that are as close to interstate highways as possible. Their own words. They need to take, their own words, as many miles out of that travel of that package as possible. You can't find a better location than this. I could throw a stone from the location to 84. I bet if they were offered the property at a premium tax, they would accept it because it's so good. All right? So, they're not going anywhere. They've committed $1.5 million already on it. They've got the building approvals that they're going through. They're going to be here. The question becomes, where does that extra $1 million on average a year go? Now, I'm going to tell you, a few years ago, the richest man in the world was asked, because they are notorious for getting tax breaks and using every trick in the book to get tax breaks. He was asked, how come you always ask for these breaks? And his answer, and I'm going to paraphrase, was, I'd rather have the money in my pocket than someone else's pocket. Well, I'm going to tell you, I'd rather have that $1 million a year in the taxpayers of Montgomery's pockets and not the richest man in the world. And I hope you agree with me. Thank you very much.
Sean? You're next.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, Board. I am the newly elected Highway Superintendent, Sean Mears, and sitting down to go through budget process and things we have going on in the town of Montgomery. We currently have 3 bridges that have been written up. One's closed down. We have 2 other ones that are shut down. And I saw that the Highway Fund full pay for this project is about $130,000 a year. 2 of the projects come out to about $110,000. So just this 1 year would pay to fix 2 of our bridges, and we could set something up to where we could actually get things in place to take care of a bridge a year, box culverts, replacing things, repaving our roads. And I feel with a company like this, 24 hours a day, pounding our roads, whether they say it's 84 or not, it's like Legoland coming in. I know the back roads of Goshen. Am I going to take the main road and deal with all the traffic, or take the back road? All the people here are going to take the back roads. It's just going to increase traffic on our roads, and I would really appreciate if you considered making the highway tax pay full to make up for the amount of traffic that's going to hit our roads. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sean. Mike.
Good evening. I'm Michael Sussman from Goshen.
and I represent a number of the community members who come to the office and ask for assistance with regard to this project. So I address you in that context. First of all, I wanted to compliment the new town supervisor for his presentation, and Mr. Anagostakis, while he and I disagree to some extent on this, I think the essential point that you've heard is critical. Subsidization for the wealthiest in the society, with the profound income inequality which we have in our society, is fundamentally wrong. The IDAs have broad authority, and that authority should be utilized to rectify income inequality, not perpetuate it. I heard the gentleman from Amazon say that the jobs would pay $15 an hour as a starting salary. If you aggregate that to a 40-hour week, that's $30,000 a year. What family in Orange County can reasonably survive on that sort of wage? Where is the housing in our communities for individuals earning that sort of wage? I also heard the gentleman say 800 jobs. That's nonsense. And I'll tell you why it's nonsense. The industry he represents is one of the fastest automated industries in the United States. Those who know anything about warehousing will tell you that 800 jobs today are 200 jobs in 5 years. That's the nature of that industry. High levels of automation, extraordinary levels of automation, which are not being explained to this board, and are in fact all over the country being operationalized. Now, the fact of the matter is that your community's comprehensive plan, as the new supervisor mentions, has not been reviewed for literally a generation. The studies which have been done by this entity fail miserably to analyze cumulative impacts, which are impacts which are going to derive from the plethora of like projects in a similar geographic area. None of the environmental studies look at cumulative impact, including that by one of the wealthiest corporations in the world. They're trying to get away by cutting corners, and those will be legally challenged because they are factually inadequate. Factually inadequate. I agree that you've spent years looking at the project, and I understand there's been a change in the political climate in your community, and I think at this point it's important for you all to recognize that, but also recognize the objective reasons why this sort of subsidy to the wealthiest in the society is inappropriate. It's fundamentally wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Kristen.
A little bit shorter. Hi, Kristen Brown, Browns Road, and technically a council member of the town of Montgomery Town Board. First, I'd like to say I echo Brian's sentiment in his letter. I think it was very well done, and I absolutely stand behind him 100% on that. But just for points of clarity, just because I'm a little bit more specific on things, in regards to the wastewater treatment plant, the application states in section 3 on page 10 that the plant will be developed and deeded to the town of Montgomery. Similarity, paragraph 11 on page 14, the application states, quotes, will be deeded to the town of Montgomery and to be formed sewer district for the purpose of future municipal service, and it continues, end quote. This is not an accurate representation of the current state of the project. The secret findings adopted by the town planning board and the town board by prior resolutions, which has been submitted to the agency, notes in paragraph 17 on page 32, that while an offer of dedication will be made by the applicant, the town is under no obligation to accept the offer of dedication. This time, the town has not been presented with an offer of dedication and has certainly not taken any affirmative action to indicate future acceptance of this facility. So I ask, this is removed from the application as it is a direct conflict with the secret findings that have been adopted by prior boards. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Susan?
Susan Cockburn, Town of Montgomery. Same thing that I would echo what Kristen just said about the sewer treatment plant, but I also wanted to point out New England Industrial Wastewater TR16 standards designates and identifies a wastewater treatment plant is the single largest, most expensive asset in any community, and it is solely at the taxpayer's expense. The proposed Sailfish project is utilizing the entire parcel, leaving no room for subsurface land treatment technology, which is superior to any wastewater treatment plant. This project is relegated to devising an on-site sewer treatment plant due to lack of space and then dumping it in the taxpayer's laps by deeding it to the town. This is much like the failed water system at Lakeview Drive, which was done by a developer and given over to the town, and it is nothing but an endless taxpayer nightmare. This is not how you cite what will become the most expensive asset in any community. When you're building a wastewater treatment facility, you cite it and you plan it and you establish it based on sanitary sewer engineering plans. You don't just take it from someone else and then deal with it. It's a huge mistake. The clean water is a finite resource that needs to be protected for future generations, and the Tin Brook is identified as a receiving water for the mega warehouse sewage flow, and it's also a source water for drinking water in Walden. The right thing to do would be Walden and the town working together to upgrade it to an A rating, not a B rating, because it's a source of drinking water going into the aquifer. Successful project design should have one priority above all others: the long-term protection of precious clean water in our lakes, rivers, and streams, and giving multi-millions in tax breaks to an unknown entity skirts the very criteria that protects our town now and in the future. The documents do not show where this megalithic box is a benefit to our town. The business of mega warehouses, and now we know who it is replete with labor violations of the worst kind. I think this is a big mistake. I also do not see anywhere about decommissioning bonds. Where are the plans and bond dialogue for decommissioning? When this building is empty, it's huge, it will become our town's problem. It is the tax permanently polluted. It is the problem that will permanently pollute our aquifer. Now, I mention this because the other similar problem like this on a much smaller scale is the subdivision of the Skibitsky site, where if they subdivide off that part with the landfill and stop paying the taxes, the town will be stuck with it. This is just a much larger scale. I wrote this up in letter form to turn it in because I was dismayed when I saw the pro-sailfish letters when I looked at them personally, they were a form letter, and 3 came from within one household. So I thought we should have some authentic dialogue about your project. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Good evening. My name is Chris Mealy, M-I-E-L-E. I'm the president of Concerned Citizens for the Hudson Valley. Many of the members of our organization, which is in excess of 120 people, are people from Montgomery as well as other areas, although I reside in Hampton Brook. I look at this application that you have before you, and I have very specific reasons as to why you can't even consider it. But basically, I look at it in 3 different ways. One of them is competency. One of them is ethics. What we have to keep in mind in ethics is you're not the one who gets to judge, we do. So full disclosure is imperative. I go to many, many conferences. A full CV on each member would go a long way here, especially considering the public has no say as to who gets on the IDA. In addition, the public has no input on the IDA as to who gets the contracts and who gets the tax breaks. This is actually a very good thing. Most IDAs don't even have a public forum like this. School boards have no seat at the table, which in the case of the IDA actually increases the school tax for the community. So in effect, this is taxation without a voice. Lawyers often work for the applicants or their sponsors and couldn't possibly give solid advice to anybody, as they have a vested financial interest in the outcome. I don't know if that's the case. I don't assume that it's not the case with you, but it's very common on many of the IDA boards.
I represent the agency.
Pardon me?
I represent the agency.
Okay. Regarding the new application, this is far from a mere new name change. On page 5, the applicant will not have any FTE jobs. The applicant will provide blah, 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 blah. It's transparency. We know now it's Amazon, but it wasn't divulged in the original application, so the application is no longer valid. USEF equals USAA Real Estate in San Antonio, Texas. They did the Amazon warehouse in Beaumont, Texas. On page 6, item 2, all IDA benefits will pass directly to the occupant. How do you have the power to assign these benefits to an unknown entity? You prior to this night, didn't know for sure who it was. On page 7, there's a question on criminal offense bankruptcies for the people named above. There are no people named, only LLCs. Competency. Page 9, 2C, are existing buildings abandoned? Yes. If yes, how described how the house will be removed? There's nothing said, no information. Information in the DEIS states that this house will be moved and restored. That gave a significant boost to their UTEP number, which now must be adjusted downward. 2D, photograph is an exhibit A. It states that it's an exhibit B, another error. Page 10, wastewater treatment plan, I think that's been covered, I don't need to go in here. On page 11, between item 1 and 2, there's a paragraph omitted that was in the original application, which states that occupancy will apply separately to Town of Montgomery IDA for its personal FFE specific to its use. Why did this disappear? It's not the same as the original one at all. Page 14, will the project be sold or leased to a municipality? Yes. And then it goes on to talk about the wastewater treatment plan again. The planning board didn't recommend this. Who's paying for the new sewer district, creation, hookup, etc.? Have you asked any of these questions? You're just accepting that it's going to happen, and that is to your benefit, which it isn't. Does the company intend to lease, etc.? The answer is yes. And the remaining required information. It says required information on your application is blank or confidential. No transparency again. The applicant will not add local employees, so how can you possibly, that's what it says in your application that's sitting in front of you, how can you possibly use any employment statistics that were provided to you unless you have a statement from the company that will be hiring those employees? It's transparency again, it totally defies logic. The $4 million on page 22 in state programs disappeared. That figure got rolled into private sector financing. Why is it different? The original application had $4 million in state programs. Page 45 notes a new and separate agreement with the fire district. Again, transparency. Did you even know about this? Has the board seen this? The real kicker for me is the multiplier, which is on the last page. I think they've applied some of Merlin's magic here. I estimate that the multiplier using the Upjohn Institute study is something like a 1.4 in this instance. There's a publication which all of you should read, or should have read, and I urge the town board to read it as well. Actually, everyone in Montgomery should read it. It was done by the Rural Pennsylvania, which is a legislative agency of the Pennsylvania General Assembly, and it's called The Economic and Transportation Impact of Warehouses on Rural Pennsylvania. This publication is a very good source of information on the effect of warehousing. Has anyone sought out this type of information? Well, that's part of your due diligence. And it's part of it, but transparency tells us that the partnership came up with that multiplier. This publication says that the research also revealed that in 2004, warehousing activities in Pennsylvania produced $2.9 billion in direct output and nearly $7.3 billion of additional activity. Yet, warehousing is strongly tied to household spending and consumption, and any change that affects that portion of the national economy, such as rising fuel or food prices, we're facing an imminent war which could definitely affect this, will likely affect this industry as well. Also, warehousing has some of the lowest income and job multipliers of any sector in the Pennsylvania economy. Although Pennsylvania gained warehousing jobs, warehousing relative weak backward purchases linked stimulated few additional jobs and spurred little wage and income growth in other sectors of our economy. Warehousing growth by itself produces very little in the way of broad ripple effects that positively affect and influence other economic indicators. You as a board are not considering the impact on the highway system, which has, according to one study, truck traffic increased 216%, this is really important, while the capacity of the interstate highway system only increased 18% since 1980. How are you going to handle these trucks? They're going to be sitting there. Economic growth in warehousing and trucking can provide jobs for people and new tax bases for municipalities unless tax deferments or tax incentives are used. With respect to infrastructure and the environment, however, these activities place additional burdens on an already overburdened highway system and generate air quality, water quality, and land use impacts that can reach far beyond their surveyed footprints. The results indicate that warehousing displays relatively weak purchasing links to other sectors. This is my argument against this multiplier.
Chris, can you wrap up shortly? Your time's up.
In this case, an argument can be made that both warehousing and trucking are passive industries that cannot produce the desired effects that you want. And I really urge you to read that particular thing. I'll give you a copy of my comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Anybody else? Barbara, I think. Is that your hand?
Good evening. I'm Barbara Lerner. I own the property on the corner of Route 747 and 17K. We've owned that property since the 70s. I'd like to remind the board that you've been served with a complaint petition regarding the zoning of one of the properties included in this project. It would be inappropriate to even entertain any IDA benefit for this project until a decision has been rendered by the court. But since you're proceeding with this public hearing, I have the following comments.
I'm sorry, I'd like to interrupt.
Go ahead, Bob.
This board has not been served with any complaint.
The IDA is listed.
It is not, but I'd love to see it if that's the case.
I believe I have a copy.
I would love to see that.
Okay, when, after my comments, I will have a motion to receive that. Excuse me. I've been trying to connect the dots on this company, the representatives, people, companies that are listed since 2018. With each iteration, it becomes more and more complicated. It's like trying to connect the dots on a Georges Seurat painting, except that when you step back from one of his paintings, everything comes into focus. Here, everything becomes more confusing. We finally know that Amazon, it's been verified, I should say, that Amazon will be the ultimate occupant. But prior to that, and this goes back to transparency again, there was Blue Water Industrial Partners, then there was Blue Water One, then there was Blue Water Property Group, but I was told about this in March of 2019. They never bothered to tell the planning board until July. Then you had Blue Water One transfers everything to USCF Sailfish, and then that winds up going to USAA Eagle Real Estate Multi-Sector Partnership and US Real Estate Limited Partnership. No names, no addresses initially, and then just the addresses, but no contacts within the application itself. On page 16, the assignee finally states that the site will be subleased. Now we know that it is being subleased to Amazon. This is a Fortune 100 company. Excuse me. In other words, this for-profit company has a greater financial basis than the entire town of Montgomery is asking the residents, taxpayers, and businesses to subsidize their business so that they can make a greater profit. This project anticipates hiring 800 people, with 25 of those being managerial positions, and the wage isn't enough to support a family or even an individual in this town. Will these be really new jobs, or will they just be transferred from the other warehouses that are along Neelytown Road that still have for hire signs in front of them. Your typical commuter, since it was stated in the FEIS that these jobs would likely come from outside the area, buys gas, coffee, and sometimes an occasional lunch. The follow-up benefits on page 37 are laughable. Caterers and restaurants for people who make little more than minimum wage. Office and janitorial supplies for a company that carries these products. Local hotels. Even the transportation benefit is almost nil, as Amazon is increasing their own delivery fleet and would rarely use local services. Even more troubling is the fact that the Orange County Partnership did prepare the multiplier. Since the partnership brought this project to the town, it's not an unbiased source. The original application from 2018 listed the current tax payment of $44,639,000. The 2019 application still uses the same number. It's just sloppy. The FEIS states that there is no bulk storage of fuel, but the application for assignment lists hydrogen fuel storage tanks as something for which they're looking for a sales tax abatement. We've addressed the wastewater treatment plant. The expense that's stated, $1.5 million, is a cost of doing business. When I prepare a bid for a project, I have an expense incurred, and it includes engineering and legal, along with all of the other ancillary items. This is the cost of doing business. It's not really applicable. The number of related parties continues to expand, and I'm wondering if you have really done your due diligence prior to tonight, finding out who these companies are, what their reputations are, who the individuals are, and verifying whether the information presented is actually true. Exhibit E is honestly funny, because it notes that it was updated with 2019 mileage rates. Added to all of the other errors, this cannot be excused as a simple typo. The number of errors and omissions should automatically disqualify this from even being considered. The fact that you're bringing this forward is inexcusable. As a business person, if I went to my bank with a business plan that had this many errors, omissions, and uncorroborated statements, my application would be summarily rejected. You have a moral obligation to every resident, every business, and every taxpayer in the town of Montgomery. And I expect you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thanks, Barbara. Don Berger, Village of Montgomery. I'm just going to rehash a few of the things, a few of the people I've already spoke about. I want to reiterate what I had talked about to you, this board here last month, and that's my objections of Mr. Stoddard sitting on this board today, making any decisions. We know we have an ethics complaint with him that's been completed. He shouldn't be sitting here, he shouldn't be rendering any decisions, he shouldn't be voting. With that being said, my concerns part to Mr. Stoddard is that we have a local law that was created that was penned by Mr. Stoddard. That was back in March. As you know, this applicant came here and asked them to reduce the local law from 85 to 60%. Mr. Stoddard was for that. So you figure, you know, you do it one time, what about it? And all of a sudden this past December, at your December 3rd meeting, Stewart Holdings shows up. And what happened at Stewart Holdings, that everybody might know, that's that, I don't know what that is over there by ShopRite.
Hey, Don, we're talking about the project.
This is about the project. This is about the project. If you let me continue. We're worried about the local labor. Over at the Stewart Holdings, they had no local labor when it came to the steelworkers, and you allowed it to pursue. I object to that. Furthermore, this Amazon, now that we know who they are, I was going to hold off on this, but since we know who they are, I guess I'm going to bring it up. all you union guys that sit on this board here, you should be really concerned about Amazon. In the past quarter of this past year, 2019, there has been many, many, many complaints about Amazon and working conditions in their facilities. Not only that, we have letters sent from the United States Congress to Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, about new reports of rate of serious injuries at the Amazon fulfillment centers. I have here a whole list of different fulfillment centers throughout the United States, and not only the United States, throughout Europe. It has here in the Amazon plant down in South New Jersey, in Robbinsville Township. Amazon warehouse workers strike to protest inhumane conditions. Have any of you folks gone online and looked up Amazon to see how they treat their employees? Have you done that? Have you, Mr. Stoddard? You're a union guy, and you want to allow a corporation like that to come in here? I'm a union guy. We can't have stuff like that. Not to mention the low salaries. I mean, I've been saying that to you guys for a long time now. $31,000 a year, come on, guys. We know that the median salary here in Montgomery is $49,000. No one could live here on $31,000 a year, Mr. Chris. You know that. No one can live here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to present this here to the board. Hopefully you guys will look through it. These are the complaints filed with different fulfillment centers against Amazon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Richard Bistrak, I'm at 465 State Route 17K, Rock Tavern. First I made a point about this previously, over and over, and I got confirmation from the planning board that this plant that they're putting in for sewage was not going to be taken over by the town of Montgomery. They said that to me twice at the planning board just before they approved this project. And now I hear, well, it's still in there, that it's going to be transferred by Blue Water to the town. I hope it is not. That would be the dumbest thing that ever the town board would do, or the planning board, to take over that facility. There's no reason to do it. You can take it over at any time you want, 10 years or whatever, but you don't need to take it over at the beginning. Let these guys deal with all of the headaches that thing is going to cause. Now, when I was at your IDA meeting the other day, back in September, the one you tried to hide, you know, you didn't tell anybody. It was a snowy day, you let the whole town hall go, and then you held a meeting. Not many people showed up. That meeting...
Excuse me. September?
September...
February.
February.
Was it February?
Yeah.
It's February, the first public hearing for Blue Water was February.
All right, okay, so...
There were over 50 people in the room that night.
There were 50 people in the room when I was there.
There wasn't 50 people in the room.
No.
You're out of your
Oh,
mind.
no, 50 people in the room.
Excuse me, don't insult me.
Don't insult us.
I'm not.
Hold on. We have a speaker and our
Okay.
council
All
is
right.
making a
So it was
comment.
February of 2019. There were plenty of people here.
The
Okay,
meeting...
in
Sir, the
addition,
meeting...
just to correct the record,
Yeah.
we've said several times on behalf of the agency that the public comment period remained open for written comments. There were plenty of opportunities to submit written comments. In addition, the chair opened the meeting in November for additional public comments. So there have been plenty of opportunities for public
Well,
comments.
I'm not going to argue that point, okay? Now, at the meeting that I was at, here's the notes for it. I don't know if there's a date on it, But at the meeting I was at, I said that there will be no sewer lines run down from that sewer plant. I said, mark my words, anybody want to bet their job on it? And Mr. Winchell raised his hand, I will. And I said, well, we'll see, we'll see. And where's Mr. Winchell? He's bet his job on it, it's gone. Okay, I hope the letter that I wrote in October regarding Mr. Winchell's circus that he had here with the planning board, with all of the union carrying sailfish signs, I wrote that letter in the Wallkill Times, and I hope it had something to do with him not getting his reelection. I hope it did. I don't know if it did. But,
You have a minute, Richard.
I got a minute, that's it?
Yes.
All right. Here's what I'm gonna give you in a minute. You see this? This is your, on the internet, Town of Montgomery Development Board, Article 1, your agency. This tells you everything about how you guys operate. All right? I'm gonna tell you what I think about it. That's what I want done with this agency. Note that I just ripped this up. I want this agency done with. We're through. I still have faith in capitalism. I don't want this approach that everybody needs social help to get going here. So I want to do away with your agency because we don't need it. You guys could look for other jobs. We don't need you. All right?
Thank you. Also, as a point of correction, I have a copy right here in front of me. The minutes
Your
from...
name,
My
ma'am?
name is Beverly Mertz, and I live at 237 Freda Street in Montgomery. I have a copy of the minutes from February 12th, 2019. And that comment that the previous person just spoke about is right here in these minutes. You want a copy? It's here.
Which comment is that?
The comment about the wastewater treatment plant, and where he said, mark my words, anybody want to bet their job on it? And Mr. Winchell said, sure, I will. Those are right here in these minutes. Now, on to what I want to talk about. I want to talk to you in regards to the planning board's finding statements for Project Sailfish. I'm hoping by now that everyone has taken the opportunity to read that document. There are several areas, in my opinion, that would bring into question the advisability of granting any long-term tax abatement to an applicant, which we now know is Amazon, that have outstanding pending items that need to be resolved. I'm only going to speak to 3 of them. There's a ton of them. On page 65, item GG, part of the stormwater mitigation, why would you grant long-term tax abatements when this applicant, Amazon, will only be required to post maintenance bond for 2 years upon completion and the subsequent occupancy certificate being given? 2 years? And you're thinking of giving them $25 million over 15 years? That's just ludicrous. The second item is on page 74, item N. It's a wetlands impact. And I quote, all disturbance activities in wetlands and spanning the Timbrook require permits from the DEC and the Army Corps of Engineers. And on that same page, item P, the following permits are required for the project's wetland and wetland buffer disturbances and for crossing the Timbrook. Protection of waters permit, freshwater wetlands permit, section 401 water quality certification.
My question to the board is this. Why would you consider giving any abatements to someone without knowing for sure that these permits are going to be issued to some company? Well, we now know it's Amazon. And they have changed their name at least 3 times. We didn't even know before tonight that they would qualify. And number 3 is, in my opinion, the biggest one. It goes back to that wastewater treatment plant. I have one question to each and every member of this board. Are you willing to swim in, or have someone you love swim in, the effluent from that wastewater treatment plant? We have farmers whose livelihoods depend on the water from that Tim Brook. Are you willing to go in it? Are you willing to put their livelihood at risk to allow Amazon, the richest man in the world, $25 million, and take it away from the school district? That's ridiculous and ludicrous. So based on the facts alone, in my own opinion, which you have clearly heard, notwithstanding, this applicant, and this was written before it was confirmed it was Amazon, whomever it is, and their unknown confidential tenant, which is totally, ridiculously absurd considering this amount of money, should not be given any tax breaks at all. I pay my taxes. I hope you pay your taxes. Let these people pay their damn taxes.
Ma'am? Thank you.
Hello, good evening, board. My name is Shariza Hopkins. I live on Lakeview Drive, and I'm a resident of Montgomery. I'm here to speak on the Sailfish IDA application, and I appreciate you taking into consideration what I'm about to say. Greetings to each member of the board, and I extend a wish that the year unfolding before us is a healthy and successful one. To create success, personal and in business, there needs to be an honest evaluation of issues being faced. There needs to be an alignment between the needs and the wants, and what is the cost, the benefit for the choices being made. The application for this project in search of approximately 25 million taxpayer-funded dollars in IDA relief is one of those issues needing to be evaluated honestly in order for the town to be successful. Health. Health is balanced on the system working correctly. It is where what is taken in needs to bring quality to the whole, and things that fail to fully support this need to be abandoned. I would believe all understand that a healthy engine supports success and a good quality of life. This application in search of IDA relief is one that fails to supply what is needed for this town to be healthy, hence needing abandonment. There has been so much exposed about this town and its boards. It is truly an embarrassment to its residents. It has eroded any trust in the fair execution of our business. There has been brought to light business dealings and communications that appear to exhibit power plays, manipulation, and avoidance of the true open negotiations where all have fair representation. Quoting from Exhibit P in the Committee on Investigations and Government Operations, Senator Skoufis is the chair, and quoting, "Opposition is getting momentum. They are angry and getting pushy and uncivil. We need a good number of supporters to reassure the board that the project is supported. I am a member of this community, and I'm also a proud member of RPM, and find becoming angry with not being fairly represented a very justifiable outcome. An angry response to such treatment with not being fairly represented is a very an angry response to such treatment really should take very little education to understand. As to pushy, if actively participating in our community's business, our governance is pushy, I would willingly add the word pushy to the dictionary under citizen. as to residents of this town or community being defined uncivil. I find that one's not conducive to civic harmony and welfare is not the resident, but those who work without transparency, creating false realities fatal in all aspects to those factually and ethically driven. And in fact, have found the opposite among those I have come to know and have been active in the search for honest representation. They are compassionate, vested, educated, often in fact too kind and respectful to a fault. Continuing with Exhibit P, we need good numbers to reassure the board the project is supported. And in another correspondence in that exhibit, are you working with Todd and the trades? Absolutely, and I have spoken with Todd several times. This is communication involves another business applicant. It is predominantly the same identities involved here. There is a saying that a leopard never changes its spots. The investigation covers interactions that appear to be compromising. Are we being compromised here? The Montgomery IDA was the least forthcoming with requested documents in that investigation. As a resident, I find that appalling and portend a distinct possibility of bad business dealings are a fact. Honesty is transparent. It is healthy. This application fails to offer any long-term benefit to the town. The schools district, stands to lose $2 million a year for the first 5 years. No benefit other than some possible snow removal and catering work. Workers paid a salary that is not one that sustains living here. Temp work, no growth potential in an employment field. Salary level sustaining only poverty. An industry that the demand to fill vacancies is problematic. Montgomery is in fact saturated with this one singular rateable, so that instead of organic growth and sustainment, a net is being cast far and wide to support its existence. Sadly, the workers with this level of salary will need to be busted, it is said, as to own a reliable car is not a very realistic possibility. $31,000 a year offers no real disposable income, no money to truly support the smaller businesses in the town. The newly revised document submitted has multiple errors. An example, a historic building is now to be removed, not moved. Let's hope that is a sloppy, irresponsibly drafted document and not true. And if so, should we be accepting such a carelessly crafted document? An application that cannot state any true benefit to the town, only the proposition of a sewer by their design, their dime, with no choice, no say from the taxpaying, the 65% taxpaying resident, who will be left maintaining the applicant, the LLC's choice of what is best for this town. There is no elevation to the financial health to this town with this applicant, no long-term benefit. Those who would live only for service of themselves fail to elevate everything and only increase the burden of others. That is important. There is a tomorrow in every new year. In that tomorrow, will there only be the bill or will there be a benefit? So with the wish for success and health comes a responsibility to see to the diversification of our revenue sources, for the ability to remain solvent in an economic downturn. I need to create a location that gives every resident a return on their investment by ensuring a quality environment, an action that will drive tax revenue, not erode it. The engine needs to be sound. Transparency is imperative to evoke trust. And while I believe all can think on their own and look out for their view of what is best in interest of this town, that is not a decision to be based on a single entity. It is not a decision to be based on falsely created scenarios meant to sway. It is not a decision to be made in backdoor arrangements that may be viewed in circumvention of legal statutes. It is not a decision to be made because the back I scratch will scratch mine. I'm done.
Okay.
2 sentences. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your patience. It is one that should be made to drive this town to a long-term financial position where the school is funded by a balanced town economic engine, The 65% of the taxpayers pay fairly but receive fairly. Where newspapers, residents, senators, and others view our ability to make critical decisions without the now seated skepticism about that ability. Where our reputation in the valley, the state, is one to be proud of, not ashamed. And one where a corporation, or in this case an LLC, to state only a leaseback sublease for 15-year commitment with no benefit is told to pay their taxes in full. Give no approval to this IDA application. No healthy, successful business puts themselves in the red. Thank you. I would like to present.
Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Bill Fioravanti. I'm the Director of Economic Development for Orange County. I will say that my comments reflect the views of my department. Somebody's got to give the other side of the story, right? We're here because we support this project as we have since day one, frankly. Exit 5A off Route 84, Interstate 84, I think it's exit 32 now, was made for this project. As your fine legislator already said, it's a stone, the site is a stone's throw from Route 84, so the truck impacts are minimal. You've got the airport within a mile, so and there's potential cargo to come out of here, which would continue to maximize the airport, which is really what our vision is. And you're talking about a quality company that's coming here and will be relevant for decades. The impacts that we're concerned with have all been addressed through secret. That we have the New York State's Environmental Quality Review is one of the most stringent in the land, and Sailfish, Blue Water, and their consultants have had the answer to all of that. As is the process as it should be in this area. The transportation sector has been a viable sector for Montgomery forever, for generations, and it continues to be. It will be for many more generations. It's not relevant yet. So when the town looks to revamp their comp plan, they're going to have to take a look at your town seal. Again, if you take a look at this town is based upon that. It's important. It is. Excuse me. Lastly, the point I want to make is that neither Amazon's profitability nor the viability of the Sailfish site negate the necessity of incentives like this. This company and all others can and will go elsewhere unless we can compete by providing short-term relief to the onerous property taxes and costly regulations that define our regional business environment. Financial incentives simply level the playing field so that we can attract these premier companies like our neighboring states with more business-friendly policies and cost structures. That's why IDAs exist, and that's why you are empowered with the powers that you have. And we respect that, we appreciate the work you do, and we know that you do the right thing. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Bill. In the back of the room, and you're next.
Hi, Karina Tipton, Village of Montgomery. I'm going to submit these comments by email to you after I speak. My comments on this application are specific to the stated or perceived benefits of this project to the town of Montgomery. The IDA is required to evaluate the benefit of the applicant project to the town of Montgomery as the impact of any tax benefit has a reciprocal impact on the taxpayers in the town and must be offset by us. The application states that it will include at least 800 long-term operational jobs. On page 4, the salary range of these jobs is stated to be between $31,200 to $60,000. The average salary of these jobs is stated to be $31,156. On page 18 of the application, and backing up how you can get an average that is so close to the minimum of this range, it is stated that 25 of these jobs will be professional, and 775 of these jobs will be unskilled, which I expect to be the minimum of the range. Only 3% of the jobs anticipated to be required to operate this warehouse will be at the professional level, with the associated salary of approaching $60,000. The reason this is important is because there is no expectation or guarantee that these will be local jobs, by which I mean local to the town of Montgomery. The environmental impact statement, which was adopted by the IDA in full, and was with reference to the planning board's finding statements, part of the secret process that the previous speaker referenced, does not make any guarantee that these will be jobs from the town of Montgomery, identifying the local workforce as coming from the tri-state area. Chapter 6 of the environmental impact statement states under effects on local economy that most of the projected employees anticipated from the proposed action are anticipated to live within 30 minutes of the project site. Statements under section B1, a local labor market, states that county labor force is drawn from an area including Orange, Dutchess, Rockland, Sullivan, and Ulster counties in New York, Pike and Wayne counties in Pennsylvania, and Sussex County in New Jersey. This workforce pool expands over hundreds of square miles. And the conclusion in this section is that this entire area of potential workers can provide only 30,000 persons actively seeking work. If that's true, what percent will be from Orange County? What percent will be from the town of Montgomery? The section continues that with over 20% of the county workforce, which refers to the 8 counties I just listed, commutes to Orange County. Note that this is not necessarily job seekers identified in that 30,000 people, but the number of people who are commuting into Orange County to work currently. Further, this section states that these employees would generate income that would positively impact the local community as businesses provide goods and services to the proposed facility and its employees. Prior section offers that generated income will be spent in Orange County, not in the town of Montgomery. While it's possible that we could scrape together 775 people in the town of Montgomery who would like to work full-time for $15 an hour in one of the most dangerous types of distribution facilities in the world, see previous comments that I've submitted that others have mentioned today related to the hazards of working in Amazon distribution facilities, the transportation studies presented in the EIS continue to reinforce that these will not be local jobs. There are several pages in the EIS outlining bus services to and from Middletown or Newburgh and the project site. The traffic study, which is attached as an appendix to the environmental impact statement, includes a thorough evaluation of traffic patterns pre- and post-build condition. Page 19 of the traffic study indicates a table with arrival and departure distributions by percent of total traffic to and from the site. For car distributions, which will comprise the majority of those 800 workers coming to the site, it lists direction by route to and from. 85% of the traffic, according to this table, arguably comes from areas outside of the town of Montgomery. The routes they will take to get to work include Route 17 East, 84 East and West, International Boulevard, routes 207 East and West. These are not roads that most town residents will take to get to work at the corner of 747 and 17K. Concluding this summary of where workers are going to come from is a statement on page 3-233 stating, quote, since this project does not involve any residential construction and no school-aged children, there would be no costs to the Valley Central School District, end quote. This information is important because it has direct impact on the evaluation of benefits that the IDA must complete as part of their responsibilities to the taxpayers, including residents and existing businesses that are in the town of Montgomery. In fact, the UTEP policy requires the use of a rubric that provides points summarizing the benefits of the town. This rubric is highly subjective, and without any backup or explanatory detail, it's impossible to know how the prior application reached the level 3 benefit. But several of the 12 categories do result in a minimum score of 1 instead of 0 because the rubric includes statements such as less than or at least at the lowest level of criteria, automatically getting you points. It's possible that without evaluating the project against this rubric critically, the UTEP score for this project can only be as low as 7, which already hits the level 2 benefit, level 2 out of 3. It's not great. That's why we're asking you, the IDA board, to take a hard look at the actual benefits or the lack of that the applicant has promised and stated in other documents. For example, as has been mentioned earlier, it's stated in the application that the wastewater treatment plant will be deeded to the town, which is not true, and in fact the planning board engineer has recommended against it. Another downgrade to the promised benefits to the town. The applicant does not plan to construct a green building that meets LEED standards, another UTEP rubric criteria. How does the UTEP evaluate the potential for spin-off jobs or the use of local suppliers and services at a community level? The superintendent of Valley Central has submitted a letter to you, which was mentioned earlier. I spoke to him today, and he noted that it objects to awarding this pilot, indicating that Sailfish stopped negotiating with him for any educational benefits to the local community, which is another criteria on the UTEP form, getting a 0. Other UTEP categories, there's no local ownership in this property or operation of the facility. Farmland will not be preserved, and in fact, the town of Montgomery will lose a valuable wildlife corridor between the Catskills, which I'm proud to say hold the oldest fossilized forests in the world, and Stewart Forest. The cost-benefit analysis that's posted to the town of Montgomery IDA website includes an evaluation of benefits to the region and to the state, but not to the town. And on the other side of the coin, the application states that the historic Arnott Haber House will not be preserved, while the secret documents indicate it's going to be relocated and preserved. including repairs and maintenance to prevent the structure from being demolished by neglect. Honestly, this application is all over the place and it can't really be trusted.
Karina, can you wrap up?
At this point, I'm not seeing any benefit to the town except for the taxes. If the IDA awards this applicant any benefits, they are doing the residents and the current businesses in this town a grave disservice, and they're failing in the due diligence required of you as a fiduciary entity in this town. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leah Westcott from the Village of Montgomery. I am here to speak of not only any decisions for Amazon, but the general health and decision-making of the IDA board in general. I would like to read this and submit this in for the public record, and then I just have a few comments if I still have time. New York State Investigations and Government Operations Committee, for immediate release, December 16, 2019. Press release. SCOOFUS releases investigative report on public authorities and IDAs, finds urgent need for reform. In March of 2019, Senator James SCOOFUS, chair of the Senate Committee on Investigations and Government Operations, opened an investigation into the compliance and practices of public authorities, including industrial development agencies, IDAs, across New York State. The committee issued information and document requests to 143 public authorities, including state authorities, local authorities, industrial development agencies, and local development corporations. The 9-month investigation found a significant need for stronger enforcement of existing laws in order to ensure compliance. Additionally, new laws and oversight tools are urgently needed to better protect taxpayers amidst billions of dollars in annual public authority spending. In an effort to recognize best practices as well as expose fraud, the investigations team developed 2 case studies within the report. In particular, the Medline Industries Warehouse IDA application in the town of Montgomery, Orange County, revealed unethical, if not illegal, behavior, and serves as an example of how financial incentives can be abused to the detriment of local taxpayers. The committee's document request produced evidence of potential collusion between these quasi-governmental agencies and the governmental entities that consider local approvals for a project. If there is one takeaway from our investigation, it's that taxpayers deserve far more accountability and responsibility with their money, said Senator SCOOFUS. The results of this report acknowledge the important role that public authorities play in our state, but also pulls back the curtain on a system that's desperate for wholesale reform. It goes on to say what his findings are, as well as any recommendations for improvement.
Could I ask you to focus on the project here tonight?
I am focusing on the project.
It doesn't sound like it so far.
I am focusing because it is based on your decision-making skills. In terms of corporations and what they are requesting to do within our town. I do not feel that your loyalties lie within the local taxpayers, but with other entities that do not involve us. And I am asking, please do not make any decisions on anything until your board is healthy and has made the definite changes that are necessary to be loyal, to be fair to the local taxpayers. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Yes, and then,
Greg Merce, Village of Montgomery, and I'm going to reiterate a little bit what the previous lady said about the report. Because the town of Montgomery IDA is one of 6 in Orange County, which is one of only 5 in New York State that have authorized IDAs, with 5 or more that operate within one county. This is all, SCOOFUS' report is right here. These are just footnotes from them. IDAs are established by the state at the request of the municipality by via county, city, town.
Sir, This was just discussed, and it's
I
not directly
understand that.
related to the project tonight.
Okay, all right, so now part of that is also creating permanent positions, and a definition of permanent is lasting or intended to last or remain unchanged. 15 years is not permanent. 2 years, the job's supposed to disappear according to their DEIS and FEIS. So how is that permanent? So that decision has to be put on hold. And the applicant, through the course of time, has changed names. This will be the third time. We now know who it is, but it's also who's the pilot going to? Is it going to Amazon, or is it going to USEF, or whoever else they want to put out there now? So that question is there as well. Okay. The facts revealed in Spencer's report, in my opinion, as a town of Montgomery resident and a taxpayer, affected by the IDA and the planning board's decisions, is that any and all applications before both of these boards be halted and the IDA board be dissolved completely until the issues of these devastating findings be dealt with. I would also strongly urge a moratorium be enacted on all future projects until the necessary changes and safeguards be enacted. No one knows the total impact, traffic-wise, of all these projects. 16 major warehouses in front of the planning board right now, totaling 4.5 million square feet of used farmland now going to a building and getting tax breaks on them. My dollars are very valuable to me. I don't mind paying the school tax because it benefits the kids and everything else. But when a business comes in, bullying their way in, is what it seems like is happening now, and getting a tax break on top of that, and my dollars go up, while the richest man in the world gets more money in his pocket, that's absurd. That's not right. And I'm sure that if you pay your taxes as well, you would think it's not right either. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. I'm
going to try to make sense of my doodles here. I'm Randy Green. I live and operate a small business in the village of Montgomery. I'd like to start off by saying the investigation by Scoofus to me is of no importance because we already know all of the problems that we now paid his team to announce in the report. And what he did is fail to give us solutions. And you maybe can call me naive, but I think the solutions lie right here in this room between the applicants, the residents, and the IDA. The definition of an IDA for the applicants, not to be rude to you guys because I know you know your job, is an industrial development agency. It's a public benefit corporation of the state of New York and is formed by the state at the request of a particular municipality for the benefit of such municipality. So, I know that the school board has put a statement in via email, and I was asked to read just a couple notes, and I just have one or two. According to a 2018 Economic Policy Institute report on the effects of Amazon fulfillment centers, investments in public services are more effective than tax incentives at generating long-term economic growth. Another key downside of tax incentives is that they deprive states and localities of resources needed to invest in public goods such as transportation or education. The research literature indicates that public spending and the expansion of public services increases local economic activity, and that such public investment is obviously hamstrung by policies like offering tax incentives that reduce resources available to state and local governments. Investments in public services, particularly early childhood education and infrastructure, are a much stronger recipe for spurring long-term economic development than providing tax increases to existing national employers. It is the opinion of the district that given the $16 million in school tax breaks that Sailfish and Amazon will be receiving over the 15-year period, if the IDA considers issuing them a pilot, it must be contingent upon both Sailfish and/or the project occupant entering into a CBA over a period of which, for instance, Sailfish and/or the project occupant would be minimally required to support the expenditures that are necessary to provide students with a quality educational program and facilities that must be modernized to incorporate the latest technology to ensure children are educated in a safe and secure environment. Which is what we held Medline to. That's my issue. So nice to meet you, Mr. Grado and Griggs. I don't know if I butchered that, sorry. And I heard you say that pilots are customary for a project of this size. That's nice. And it's nice to always get what you're accustomed to, but I'm accustomed to a lot of things that I don't get to enjoy every year because that's life and business. Sorry, it's true. This is not all or nothing, so why is that the only option given to us? Why does it seem so binary here? I'm not against Amazon or automation or development. I'm not against a median income of $31,000 a year. I make that and I live here. Let's be fair though. My sales this year were $304,000. My payroll was $77,000. My taxes were $28,000. My property taxes for the village and town were $9,200. And I'm sure if we put that into some kind of program, the ratio of the income versus the taxes that I'm paying would more than qualify me for a pilot program, which I'm sure I wouldn't get. I can also assure you that I can show you on paper that I spend almost all of my entire income locally on purpose, but that's not, again, a pilot's not an option for me. We raked Medline over the coals at countless meetings, and they were from the start more approachable and forthcoming than Amazon. After months, Medline finally came back with a reasonable attitude and dropped their pilot for their as-of-right 485B, which you are also entitled to. If Medline had received the pilot, they were also obligated to pay $300,000 to the school and $300,000 in medical supplies. So why isn't Amazon being held to the same standard? I wonder if the applicant's hesitancy to be named in the application could maybe be due to the negativity that they know will fester because of the adversarial relationship that the IDA has all but encouraged between residents and applicants due to their lack of negotiations on behalf of their own communities. Why are we playing a game of chicken with Amazon? Why are we not negotiating reasonably with the community benefit agreements? This is business 101. I encourage you to keep public comment open and hold off on any decision. We've done this to Medline countless times, and we really need to hold Amazon to the same standard. If the IDA won't negotiate on behalf of the community, shame on them, and if Amazon won't negotiate directly with the community, shame on you.
Who else would like to speak tonight? Maureen?
Good evening. My name is Maureen Hallahan. I'm the president and CEO of the Orange County Partnership. I just want to rewind a little bit. When Blue Water Partners first came here to Orange County, it was because they were seeking out sites wherever in the county that would handle a project of this caliber, not knowing who the end user would be. When they were looking at sites throughout the county, they needed accessibility. They wanted to make sure that this distribution center, because that's what they build for, large companies like this, would be able to have easy access, easy highway access to the major interstates, and this site was the perfect location. They went and did their due diligence. They came to the town and went through the environmental process and were very transparent and forthcoming throughout the entire process. In the end, when speculators do something like this, then they get a company that might have interest in the site. This is no different, I want to just remind you, of many of the companies that came along Neelytown Road and came before the IDA over the course of many years. Those companies that started with pilots have paid taxes in perpetuity throughout for many, many years and are some of the largest taxpayers in the school district and in the municipality. So I just want to make sure that we keep in mind that the benefits go on, they move forward. Projects like Amazon bring other projects on the heels of those of their companies. So there could be promise for other projects throughout the county. And we hope that you will vote appropriately as you did earlier. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maureen. Sir, Chris, what's going on?
Don't worry.
Good evening. My name is Chris Pennings. I'm a lifetime resident of Orange County, Berea Elementary through Valley Central. I wear three hats, I like to think, when I speak at these. I do understand the frustrations of farmland leaving. I'm a fourth generation farmer, not in this community, in Crawford. I'm in my fifth year in business. My taxes went from $14,000 to now close to $30,000. Now, that's because Pine Bush can't get any ratings.
Chris, we can't hear you too well unless you speak into the speaker a little bit. Thank you.
So, standing here before you, I'm having trouble surviving as a farm, as I'm sure Mr. and Mrs. Pims have, and the other properties surrounding there. Mr. Pym set up my grandfather's first milk parlor. Very close friends of ours. And all I could say, I guess, is as a family of farms and landowner, you should have ponied up and bought the land before this happened. You can't survive as farmers. I don't know what else to tell you. We live on an industrial location. I was fortunate enough to purchase my only commercial property. I'm not a commercial realtor or commercial investor. And it borders the property of this property. I'm at 469 17K. I'm a business owner there. I'm a recruiter of 28 years. The young lady, and I'm sorry people overlook the $15 and $16 an hour jobs, because those dollars are paying people's household bills. It's kind of sad or a little disrespectful to those who do earn 15, 16, 17, 18. People, I speak to thousands of candidates per year. They need those jobs. There's great health care behind it. There's stability. People at Cardinal, when you all fought Cardinal 20 years ago when it was Baxter's, because it was $12, $13, $14 an hour jobs. I know tons of people that I placed, some I went to school with, they're making $25, $26 an hour now. Yeah. I mean, they've earned that way. They've not left. It's just the way it goes. I mean, we are a transportation hub. We've always been identified as it, as far as I can always remember, the minute Cardinal came here. So from a recruiter standpoint, and those who I have helped in many of the distribution companies, it's important to them. There's a lot of jobs at stake here, and there are many people that have, even executives that left this area to go work for Amazon in Pennsylvania or something like that. Those people can come back now, okay? From a standpoint of feeling the pressure of taxes as a landowner in, again, Pine Bush, I think these kinds of properties have to be developed properly in good communication. I think there'll be enough on the radar that smaller companies can sometimes do a lot worse that you don't even know that's in your backyard than companies that are on the radar like this kind of project. And I can guarantee you that it is in your backyard, whether it's tires or oil or whatever. Because I remember when my grandfather used to get people complaining about manure going too close to streams.
Can you please talk to the board? Thank you.
Rather talk to you.
Thank you.
Okay. So in closing, I just feel like we've seen enough of these projects come and go. We do live on a highway. I used to. I moved out to Pine Bush because I decided I wanted more rural property. So with that, I think people have to take a little bit of an understanding. A farmer like Mr. Pym that dedicated his life to farming has to make a choice, and many times it's a difficult choice, because we don't have the PDR that you're buying out the farms, and I just very much support this project, and I hope to see it through. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. How many more people would like to speak tonight? Let me catch the people who haven't spoken.
It's directly related to what he just said. As a
Yeah,
point of
but this is addressing the board, and I need to maintain an appropriate procedure. Jim Taylor?
Good evening, Chairman and board members. Tonight's the night, once a year, where you guys earn your money. All that money that...
What money?
I don't think you get paid a cent for it, but anyway. Nights like tonight are tough. It's tough for you people that are going to vote as board members. It's tough for the public. And Montgomery town has taken a beating in the last couple of years. For what reason? You know, they say it's preservation of agriculture. They say it's no growth. They say it's green. It's this, that, and the other thing. But it's about the people that live here, and it's the people that work here, and it's about the people that play here. We've just gone through an election. We've got a brand new team, management, operating this town. The IDA board's taken a beating for its board members. I don't think it matters whether you're a union member or non-union, whether you're black or white or Irish or English or insurance salesman or real estate broker. You have ethics, you have morals, and you got a job to do, and a lot of it has ethic codes that you're obligated to. So when it comes to the law, we got to be confident that you guys are going to do the right thing. I, for the last 9 years, was appointed by the governor to serve on the Mid-Hudson Regional Council as a voting member. I remember when this project came to Regional Council. They were awarded money. They were an ideal candidate for that location. New York State taxpayers, Orange County taxpayers, Town of Montgomery taxpayers paid in excess of $75 million to do that 747 corridor, the gateway to Montgomery, the future entrance to the future Stewart Airport. So these people have been eyeing this project, working this project for a number of years. They spent a lot of money. And the Town of Montgomery government, the Town of Montgomery residents, the Town of Montgomery taxpayers have contributed to this project getting to the 12th hour of where it is tonight. So at 5 minutes to 12, we're going to turn our back on them after everything that's been discussed, negotiated, permitted, approved, discussed. You can't do that. It's like false advertising. For 2 or 3 years, they've been spending money to come to the gateway of Montgomery, to come to the entrance of Stewart Airport, 747 improved roadway to transport maybe ground to air, air to ground. Who knows what the future will hold. We know they're going to have to adjust to local market conditions. They are smart business people. Whether the guy is rich or poor, doesn't matter. That's what disturbs me most. Rich people now are penalized. It's like quid pro quo. What's in it for me? What are you going to give me? I don't get it. It's almost like extortion, where what are you going to give me to allow you to come to my town? That's crap. That's not American. That's not business. We welcome business to come. And as was said earlier, a few minutes ago, about the Pym Brothers farm. You know, the guy struggled. That family struggled for years to hold that land, to pay the taxes. And now he made a transaction. He's gonna make a profit. Now a bad word. It's disgusting.
It's dead, P.S.
We can't.
Pardon me, please be quiet in the audience, as a courtesy
You're
to the
allowing this
speaker.
reference to Pym all the time. Pym's been dead
Excuse
for
me,
10 years.
you do not have the floor. Mr. Taylor is speaking. I would ask for respect.
And I hate this because it creates animosity amongst our friends, our neighbors. And whenever we come in this room, you get a bad feeling about it. We shouldn't. We should be able to open, have discussion out loud. I don't think anybody's happy about giving anybody a tax-free ride, but nobody comes into New York getting a tax-free ride. You pay to come into New York, and it's a lot more expensive a price than going into a lot of other states. So we should be very thankful, very happy that we've got people that want to locate their business here. And I just, again, I hate to see that. I hate to see this amongst our friends and family and community members. And you folks as appointed board members having to make a decision. But to turn our backs on these guys now would be like we've been false advertising for the last couple of years. Welcome to the gateway to town of Montgomery. Welcome to 747 corridor. Welcome to Stewart Airport. Millions of dollars have been invested, as I said, and to turn our back on them at this point would be a big mistake. And although I wouldn't want to be in your seat tonight to have to make a vote, but you don't have a choice because you're here from the economics incentive side of this thing. Senator Skoufis wrote this report.
Could you wrap up? Your time's about up.
Yes. And the Skoufis report, I read it 3 times. Nothing was done wrong. Medline did nothing wrong. They did the normal business procedural practice to get the best deal. And there's nothing wrong with that, despite some people wanting to make it wrong. Because if they did a crime or you guys made a criminal infraction, you'd have been in handcuffs by now. So.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much.
John? Did you have your hand up, John? Yeah. That's what I thought.
My name is John Brown. I live in Browns Road, town of Montgomery, and I also live downstream of the major problems that will be created by the Sailfish project. So, as I stated on November 12th when I presented before this board, I am firmly opposed to any kind of benefit given to an applicant that helps to destroy the value of our historic farm, which goes back 5 generations. The tin brook goes through our farm, and the increased runoff from this and the potential pollution in the tin brook directly affect us, and I have documented that. You've heard tonight from a number of local people, a lot of local people who care about our community. And it's important to point out that the representatives for this applicant don't live in our community, nor does the lobbying organization from Orange County Partnership or from the county. And I believe that our local people should have a key say in what goes on. I fully support all of the arguments that have been brought forward by our local people, and I do have a letter I'll submit which basically confirms my agreement with those key points. But I think a key point that really needs to be understood by this board is the point that Chris made before. You shouldn't even be considering this application because on its surface, it has significant errors in it. Now look at this group of people supporting it and their lobbyists. I wish they had read the application that's put in because not, as Bill said, this is in agreement with SECRA. It is in direct conflict with the SECRA findings. SECRA findings says they're going to restore the house, move it. Their application, directly in that application, says they're going to remove it. Now, what will they do? Maybe they'll bring in a big machine, tear it down and put it in a dumpster and say, oh, we're sorry. We didn't pay attention to that SECRA application. We've heard many times tonight about the wastewater treatment plant, which I think everybody has well documented and is in secret that it will not be deeded to the town in the secret document. Yet, their application has that in 2 places. These aren't typos. I mean, these guys combined are making $2,000 an hour sitting here, and they can't even get this application correct. How can you expect them to ever follow up on any of the obligations that are needed when they can't even get the application correct? These aren't typos. And in fact, if our lobbyists and our partnership spent their time reading the secret documents and the applications, they should have found the same things. Now, in addition to that, there are other errors within this application. They're not even consistent on the tax benefit granted. And you can look that up, and in 2 places, you have different amounts. Their assessments have never been verified by the town assessor. So in closing, I would say you should reject this application out of hand because of the significant errors in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak tonight to the subject?
I think you should give more than one child.
Hold on. I'm asking for people who haven't spoken yet.
Yeah, fine.
Ma'am.
Good evening, I'm Jane Fiero, I live over on Lake Osiris Road in the town of Montgomery. And I have attended several meetings over the last year from the planning board, town board, and a couple of the IDA meetings. A lot of it was new to me. As far as the money that the company has already invested in this process, I can appreciate it's a lot. It's really unfortunate that there wasn't transparency from day one, like what the goal was, what you were hoping to do, what could be possible things, and that wasn't openly shared with the community. The community, when they started to find what was going on, came on board, and I've heard a lot of excellent testimony from different community members about the concerns for the environment, the Tin Brook, the water, for Walden and such, and I think things like that are much more important than the money that's been invested up to this point. In the future, we want people to be able to have clean water to drink and such. I'm very concerned that nobody in the town has considered overall traffic studies for what it's going to be like in our community going from point A to point B during commuting time, because it's bad already, and with hundreds of more cars from all these different projects, this one more so, it's just going to make it worse. And I would just like to say that I'm so glad we have many pushy citizens in our town. And certainly historically, if it wasn't for pushy citizens, women never would have had the right to vote. There never would have been civil rights. There never would be worker benefits. So thank God for pushy people.
Anyone else who hasn't spoken yet tonight? Kristen, did you have a quickie?
Yeah, just,
Kristen Brown, Browns Road. Just a point of clarification, on page 10, according to the application, present legal owner of the project site, parcel 1 is LVL Realty LLC, parcel 2, Deborah Drake, Thomas, Tracy Jr., Michael Drake, and Dan Steins. Parcel 3 is Patricia Haber, and parcel 4 is Patricia Haber. So I believe that the comment that Mr. Pennings made was on the wrong land parcel. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard, did you have something else quick?
Yeah, real quick. First of all, Mr. Pym has been dead for 10 years, and it sounds like they're talking he's alive and that, so he's gone. There's a lot of ambiguity here. Mr. Taylor spoke, but I didn't quite understand what he really wanted. I tell you what I want. I want I would prefer that they didn't come at all. But, if they are gonna come, then let them pay the taxes. Okay, that would make me feel better. Now, they're gonna pay $350,000 a year to this Valley Central School District. How much do you think that that's gonna reduce my taxes? Nothing. It's not gonna reduce my town taxes. So if this building was on the border of your properties, don't you think you would say, well, what benefit am I getting from these guys? What benefit? And I'm getting nothing. Welcome. Yeah, I just, let me repeat it. If they're gonna come, let them pay the taxes. It has to be. They have to pay the taxes.
Thank you, Richard.
Shariza Hawkins again, 308 Lakeview Drive. After listening to some of the speakers, I would like to tell this board as a resident, I believe you're an independent thinking, hopefully ethical, transparent board. Because other people have dealt and said things doesn't necessarily mean that that is applicable to you nor to this town. The destiny of this town as being a home rule state is up to us, the people. You control a piece of that destiny and controlling who comes by offering or not offering that finance. Farms are dying, but the next generation, my children are 25 and going forward, they look forward to the things that this town actually did offer. Farm to table is growing. There are many things, just like Sears and Roebuck. They were a dynamo. They are no longer applicable. So to say the farms are dying, maybe they were, maybe some still will, but some will actually survive and create a future for our children, our destiny. I take exception to the fact that there is an appearance. I'm a capitalist, I'm a Republican. I like things to go forward. I like people with money. I like people who pay their taxes, so I too can have a quality of life. But what I find really important is to insinuate that because we discuss a low minimum wage of $31,000 and they say you can live on that, well, I made $27,000 back in 1980 and I barely lived on that. This is 2019. I am not here to degrade nor suppress, and I don't think any of the residents are here when we discuss that wage. So what we're asking this board to do is consider an opportunity for people who truly bring the ability for people to make a working wage. If this company wants to make their minimum wage at $25 an hour, now we can talk some parlay, because this town is losing an awful lot by giving up this property. Regardless of what the state, who romanced who stroked who scratched whose back, the fact of the matter is it's a home rule state. A comprehensive plan is due. Our destiny is in our hands and in your hands. Nobody has the right, any more than I do, to tell you that because somebody else made a promise, you must fulfill it. No, that was their words. Our words is what's important to this town. And just like because I was born a woman, doesn't mean that suddenly I have to be a part of the Handmaid's Tale. So if you think about the values of what people are saying, we're asking for an ethical, high-quality set of jobs to come in here that raises those people that are looking to do more than living hand to fist. That's your decision. That's a decision for you to make, not somebody else that's trying to tell you because they made a commitment, you have to. 747, I worked at Stewart Airport in 1981 as a groundsman. My background is around aircraft, and there was a lot of basic general aircraft, but it was in freight. So I understand the destiny of Stewart Airport. 747 was not built for the benefit of Montgomery, for heaven's sake. It was built for the Stewart International Airport. So don't dare they lay the responsibility of their investment and frame our destiny and hold us accountable for that. How dare they? And I ask you to take the higher order, deny this. If you want to come, Amazon, and I use Amazon at Christmas time, I ask you to pay your taxes. I ask you to be good citizens. I ask you to be transparent. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board. My name is William Devine. I'm the adjacent property owner to the Amazon site. And just for the record, I pay my taxes. Some of the things I heard tonight were a lot of assumptions based on if they don't get the tax exemption or abatements, that they're going to leave. You did say that if you can answer questions that you would. Has any of the board members actually asked them that if they do not get the IDA tax abatements, if they would leave?
The last meeting, and they
They
would.
did? And they would?
Yes.
They would. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Board members, any comment? Any comment, board members? I'm gonna suggest that we consider Barbara,
Yes.
and then Fred, I think, briefly, please.
Very, very briefly. I wanted to give you a copy of the petition. You're right, the IDA is not named on this. But if my petition succeeds and the court grants,
I don't need, I have it.
you have this?
I have that.
Okay.
I was just clarifying that the IDA is not named.
It is not named. It may be amended.
Nor has it been served.
No.
Can you speak in the mic, please?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes, Mr. McLaughlin is correct. The IDA is not named in this case. However, if depending on the judgment at finalization, once this is heard, this could prevent this project from going forward forever. So I would strongly urge you to not have to go back on any decision that you make regarding benefits until after a decision by the judge has been made.
Thank you, Barbara. Fred? Briefly?
The gentleman is saying that he represents people who are trying to find jobs. Well, you're bringing in two bookend mega warehouses in the town of Montgomery, coming in and leaving. As you travel west, guess what? You travel the road in between, the Town Road, there are warehouses looking for people. Why bring something else in when you still don't have the people there to fill the positions they need? Why? You're gonna bust them in from somewhere else, so that adds to the traffic impact. Something you should consider is because we need to fill the jobs on Town Road before you bring somebody else in. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. I'm going to suggest to the board that we consider leaving the public hearing open to be continued on February 11th. There's a lot of information we received tonight. There's certainly some open issues. Any comment on that consideration?
Can we leave it open to the next meeting? I'm sorry, Stephen Riley, representing the applicant.
Yeah, the next meeting is next week on January 14th, and I think that's too soon. I would ask the board for a motion to continue on February 11th, if someone would care to make that motion.
So moved.
Motion by Bob, second by Steve. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. The public hearing is adjourned for tonight. Thank you all for coming and the courtesies you exhibited.